we have a new open source AI image generator, and this is probably the best and most realistic one you can use right now. It's called FLUX Krea Dev, and this is basically an upgrade to Flux, which was once the best image model out there. But this one is even better. In particular, it gets rid of all the flaws that you might have noticed with the original Flux model. I'll talk more about this in a second. Anyways, in this video, I'm gonna go over all the cool things that FLUX Krea Dev can and cannot do. Plus, I'm going to go over where to use it, and of course I'm also going to show you step by step how to install it on your computer so you can run it for free for unlimited times offline. Let's jump right in. So first of all, here is their announcement page, and they call this an opinionated text-to-image model. It kind of has an artsy vibe to it, you can say. It introduces some imperfections, and basically it makes the photos look a lot more real. Whereas previously the generations with Flux just look way too plasticky and polished. Now instead of just me describing it, let me show you some examples comparing FLUX Krea Dev with the regular Flux Dev. Alright, so here's a super simple prompt, amateur photo of a woman. Notice that for FLUX Krea Dev, this actually looks like an amateur photo. It's kind of grainy and noisy. There's a lot of imperfections. It's kind of like blurry along the edges. This is not a perfect photo. Whereas for FLUX Dev, notice that her face kind of looks too plasticky. I mean, even the skin doesn't look as real. And then this face looks way too polished and perfect. Plus the background has a really nice, blur and bokeh to it, like a professional photo. This is definitely not an amateur photo of a woman. So you can see that in this regard, this is where FLUX Krea Dev does a lot better. Or here's another example. If the prompt is amateur photo of a nerdy woman with messy hair, round glasses, freckles, and braces, and she's at the library, here is what we get for FLUX Krea Dev. For all the examples I'm showing you here, I picked the best out of 4 generations. So you can see here this woman does have freckles, although there's kind of way too many freckles on her face. I don't think freckles are supposed to occur on her forehead or nose or chin as well, at least not to this extent. But she does have braces, she does look pretty nerdy, her hair is kind of messy. This is just a more realistic and imperfect photo. Now for FLUX Dev, interestingly, for all 4 generations, they all look kind of cartoonish like this. Like you couldn't actually generate a realistic, nerdy looking girl. Plus, none of the images could actually generate braces. So from this example, I hope you can see again how FLUX Krea Dev is superior. Just a few more human examples, and I'm also going to show you some other diverse stuff. But anyways, here the prompt is a woman riding a bus looking out the window, and again, FLUX Krea Dev looks a lot more realistic. Like, this looks like an actual photo of someone riding a bus, whereas for FLUX Dev, you can see it has a ton of AI vibes to it. The background just looks way too nice, her skin looks too plasticky. The colors also look saturated. This just looks too perfect. Whereas for like FLUX Dev, you can kind of even see like some chromatic aberration. The window is messy as hell. Her face doesn't look perfect. I mean, it's really hard to tell that this is AI generated. Here's one of my favorite prompts to test an image generator, a page of a school yearbook with a grid of student photos. For FLUX Krea Dev, again, this is the best out of 4 generations, here is what we get. Notice that the text is still gibberish. So in terms of text generation, which I'll also show you in a second, it's not as good as some of the other proprietary models like GPT-4o. And then some of these students kind of have the same faces. There's only like subtle differences between, each of their faces. And then over here, we have the original FLUX Dev. Again, all the names and the text are gibberish. This is also the best of 4 generations, and it seems like the students here are more Asian. So that's an interesting distinction. But notice that overall, I mean, if you zoom out, the generation from FLUX Krea Dev looks, again, more realistic. Like this is actually a photo from a page of a yearbook. Whereas for FLUX Dev, the colors are just way too saturated. Everyone looks too perfect. Alright, here's another prompt. People dancing at a nightclub, harsh flash, amateur photo. Again, FLUX Krea Dev just looks super natural and realistic. I mean, it's really hard to tell that this is AI generated, except for the fact that she might have 6 or 7 fingers over here. And then I don't know what this is, but from far away, it's hard to notice. Now for FLUX Dev, it's kind of easy to tell that this is AI generated. Everything just looks too perfect, and also the colors kind of look too fake. Here, the prompt is an urban rooftop garden in LA full of succulents, string lights, and a cat sleeping on the ledge. And as you can see for FLUX Krea Dev, the cat looks pretty good. The succulents also look pretty good. Again, everything just looks quite realistic. The only flaw is this string doesn't seem to be connected to anywhere. But I mean, if you compare this with FLUX Dev, again, everything just looks too plasticky, including the cat. And then here's another slice of life prompt. A street vendor selling lanterns at a night market in Vietnam, and here this actually looks like a dude selling lanterns at a night market. Like, the photo looks so real. Whereas for the regular FLUX Dev, again, the colors just look too saturated, everything looks too perfect. And it doesn't look like she's selling lanterns. And by the way, again, this is the best out of 4 generations. Here's another insane example. A candid moment of 2 elderly women playing chess in a Paris park. And if you look at FLUX Krea Dev, look how realistic this photo is. I mean, aside for the chess pieces, which don't really look correct, especially this piece over here. But if you ignore that and you just look at, the background and the woman sitting and playing chess, everything just looks so damn real. Whereas for FLUX Dev, again, it just has this plasticky vibe to it. It doesn't look as real. So again, from this example, you can see how FLUX Krea Dev is just way more realistic. Next, I also wanted to test out its ability to generate different camera angles and perspectives. So here's an ultra-wide fisheye lens shot of a skateboarder doing tricks at a skate park, and surprisingly, both of them could actually pull this off. But again, FLUX Dev, the colors are just too saturated, this looks too perfect, and his face looks kind of plasticky, whereas for FLUX Krea Dev, this just looks a lot more realistic. Although one thing I tend to notice a lot in these generations is that their fingers are a lot worse than the original FLUX Dev. But other than that, everything else looks a lot more realistic. I also wanted to test its ability to generate different cars. Like, can it actually understand common car models? So here we have a black Porsche 911, a green Tesla Roadster, and a yellow Mini Cooper racing on city streets at night. For FLUX Krea Dev, it's able to nail all 3 car models, and this is a very beautiful and realistic looking photo. Now for FLUX Dev, the photo actually isn't too bad, although again I would have to say the colors are a bit too saturated, and even out of 4 generations, it could not generate all 3 cars. For some reason, it kept on mixing the Porsche with the Tesla and giving us something like this. Also, the Mini Cooper doesn't look as accurate as FLUX Krea Dev. Here's another prompt I like to try out. A teenage woman holding a handwritten note that says, "Verify me 2025-0804, low quality selfie photo." And again, FLUX Krea Dev is the only one that could actually generate this low quality selfie photo. You can see there's a lot of imperfections. This looks like a pretty average photo. Whereas for FLUX Dev, this looks way too perfect and her skin is too plasticky. Next, I also wanted to test out its ability to generate different animals, which actually not a lot of image generators could do very well. So here we have a grizzly bear catching salmon at an Alaskan river, water splashing everywhere. And as you can see, FLUX Krea Dev did a lot better. The colors, the detail, the realism are just way better than FLUX Dev, which kind of looks cartoony. Here's another example. I wanted to see if it actually knows some rarer species. So here the prompt is a pair of spectral tarsiers on a tree, realistic photo, and for your reference, the spectral tarsier looks like this in real life. I believe these are found in Sulawesi. It's like a real life baby Yoda. Unfortunately for both FLUX Krea Dev and the original Flux, they could not understand what a spectral tarsier is. FLUX Krea generated this, which looks more like lemurs, and then FLUX Dev actually looks a bit closer to tarsiers, but still everything just looks completely wrong. So if you want to generate like more uncommon species, both tools are not a good option. I would recommend Google's Imagine for that. Next prompt, we have a group of dogs dressed as famous world leaders having a debate. Both generations are not bad. FLUX Krea Dev does have more detail and it looks more realistic, but FLUX Dev is more ethnically diverse. I don't know why FLUX Krea Dev only generates golden retrievers. Here's a landscape photo test. A snowy mountain peak at twilight where a climber's campfire flickers against the vast starry sky. For FLUX Krea Dev, here is what we get. Again, super detailed. I love the Milky Way in the sky. Everything looks beautiful. And surprisingly, FLUX Dev is not bad. This also looks very nice and detailed. But I mean, if you compare it with FLUX Krea Dev, then I do prefer the colors of FLUX Krea Dev a bit more. Again, the original FLUX Dev just looks too saturated and it's kind of too blue. Here we have a security camera footage of someone robbing groceries, and surprisingly FLUX Dev actually performed very well. In fact, in this example, I would have to pick FLUX Dev over FLUX Krea Dev. But let me know in the comments what you think. And then here I'm testing its prompt understanding. So here's a really long and tricky prompt with a lot of elements. A ballerina in a tutu practices spins in a sunlit studio with mirrored walls and bar equipment, scattered with point shoes and sheet music. A rabbit watches from atop a grand piano. Outside the large window, an elephant balances on a circus ball. So for FLUX Krea Dev, we do have all the elements. We have this ballerina, we have sheet music scattered all across the floor, and point shoes. We have a rabbit on a grand piano, and this is indeed a grand piano, and we have an elephant balancing on this circus ball. Although it's kind of levitating here, so that's the only noticeable flaw with this. Whereas for FLUX Dev, the rabbit is not on the grand piano, there's no sheet music on the floor, plus the elephant isn't balancing on a circus ball outside the window. So as you can see here, for prompt understanding, FLUX Krea Dev is just way better. Here I'm testing its ability to generate movie posters. The prompt is down here, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but both are actually pretty good. I would have to say it's a tie over here, but let me know in the comments what you think. And then here's another tricky prompt which I don't expect any of them to get fully correct. A screenshot of a YouTube video search for funniest cats. Technically, I would have to say FLUX Krea Dev is more correct. It's actually searching funniest cats on YouTube and showing us the results here. Whereas for FLUX Dev, it's not showing us the YouTube search results. And then here I'm testing its ability to generate long snippets of text. Both of them could not get the text completely correct, but as you can see, FLUX Krea Dev could generate the text a bit better than FLUX Dev, which is just mostly gibberish. Also, this is your cue to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Next, I also wanted to see how good it is at human anatomy. So here's a woman doing a handstand, one leg is bent, the other is extended. Both of them could not generate this very well. They're both in some really grotesque position. And then for research purposes, of course, I also wanted to see how good it is at generating feet. So here's a really tricky prompt that not a lot of image generators could get correct. A woman sitting and showing both her palms and soles of feet. Now, FLUX Krea Dev could actually do this pretty well, but it's just that she is missing one toe over here. For FLUX Dev, this is the best out of 4 generations, and her feet don't really look accurate, plus she's not showing her palms. Speaking of AI tools, you've got to check out Lovart, the sponsor of this video. Lovart is an advanced AI agent that automates the entire design process. It can create multiple formats like images, videos, and audio. You can get it to create posters, media kits, app designs, and even entire video commercials with sound. For example, I can upload this image of a speaker and ask it to create posters, and as you can see, this is an autonomous agent that automatically plans the design step by step and creates multiple posters for me. Now next, I'm going to prompt it to create a full brand kit for this. So next, it suggested a few logos for me to choose from. I'm going to select this one, and then it goes ahead and generates the color palette and the typography, the pattern system, the packaging design, and even the website homepage, and the branding guidelines. How cool is that? Or here's another example. I'm going to upload these 3 images, and I'm going to get it to create a luxurious commercial video, and it first plans out the video from scene to scene. And then here's our final video. And then next, I got it to create some marketing materials for this. And that's what it proceeds to do. So you can see it's generating some product photos, plus it's generating this poster, plus it's even generating some ideas for social media posts. Or here's another example. I'm going to upload this photo and I'm going to get it to design a Vogue poster with this woman. And here is what we get. This is so easy. Lovart is the ultimate AI design agent. Try it for free via the link in the description below. Next, I also tried this prompt, 5 hands making a star shape. None of them could do this well, whereas proprietary models like Seedream or GPT-4o could nail this prompt. And then next, I also wanted to test out different art styles, so here is a marketplace in 3D Pixar animation style. And actually, both of them look very good. If I had to pick one, again, I would go with FLUX Krea Dev. It just looks slightly nicer and more detailed, and the colors also look more accurate. Next, I also wanted to see if it can generate anime and also different logos like McDonald's and Coca-Cola. So here we have Naruto, Nezuko, Goku, and Doraemon sitting at McDonald's and drinking Coke. For FLUX Krea Dev, I was actually surprised that it understood most of these characters except for Nezuko, and there is a McDonald's logo over here. The Coke logo is also correct, but there are some flaws with this, such as the straw over here. And then her fingers here are also messed up. Again, I tend to find that FLUX Krea Dev messes up fingers more often than the original Flux. Anyways, here is FLUX Dev's generation, and it got Naruto and Doraemon. Goku doesn't really look like Goku, and who the hell is this? It's also missing the McDonald's logo and the Coke logo. Next, I also wanted to see if it can handle a Monet-style impressionist painting, which for your reference looks something like this. It basically consists of a ton of really rough brush strokes, and you kind of have to step back and kind of blur your vision to see the scene. Now, I would say none of them got this completely correct, but FLUX Krea Dev is a bit closer. You can see it's actually generating these rough brush strokes in the background. Whereas for FLUX Dev, this just looks like a cartoon. So an easy win for FLUX Krea Dev. And then here's a rough pencil sketch of something unusual. Both of them could handle this pretty well. Here's a dreamlike scene of a whale swimming through the clouds above a quiet town. FLUX Krea Dev looks more realistic, plus the whale looks more anatomically correct compared to FLUX Dev, which looks like this. Like no whale on planet Earth looks like this. And then here's another prompt that I tried out. Again, the colors of FLUX Krea Dev just look way nicer than FLUX Dev, which look too cartoony and oversaturated. So hopefully that gives you a sense of all the cool things that FLUX Krea Dev can do. Across the board, even for generating like landscape scenes, or anime, or fantasy, sci-fi, or abstract scenes, or posters, FLUX Krea Dev overall just performs noticeably better than the original FLUX Dev. And the nice thing is they've released everything already. So let's go over where you can use FLUX Krea Dev. First, if you want to use it online, there are actually several ways you can use it for free. One way is on Krea. You can simply enter a prompt here and click generate, and it would use FLUX Krea to generate the image. And you don't even need to sign up for an account. You get a few free generations per day on this page, which I'll link to in the description below. And afterwards, once you run out, then you can sign up for a free account, and then you also get some additional daily credits for free. Another place to use FLUX Krea Dev is on Hugging Face. So Black Forest Labs themselves released this free Hugging Face space for you to use online. Here's where you would enter a prompt, and then you would simply click run to generate images. And then down here we have a few advanced settings. So for example, you can also specify the width and the height of your image. Now, instead of these online methods, they've already released the models, so you can download this and run it offline for free and unlimited times. However, note that FLUX does have a non-commercial license, which basically has some restrictions for commercial usage. But if you're just generating images for yourself, then this doesn't really matter. So next, I'm going to show you how to install FLUX Krea Dev and use it locally for unlimited times offline. Now, as with most open source AI tools, there could be multiple ways you can use this. But one of the best and most customizable ways to use FLUX Krea Dev, especially if you have low VRAM, is using ComfyUI. If you haven't heard of ComfyUI before, see this video for a full tutorial. Anyways, back to our video here. I'm going to assume you already have ComfyUI installed. Now, the nice thing is they've already released an official workflow for FLUX Krea Dev. So I'll link to this page in the description below, which has all the installation instructions, but let's also go over these right now. So if you scroll down a bit, first of all, you need to download a few models. If you have enough VRAM, you could go ahead and download the full Safe Tensors file over here. But if you have lower VRAM, then I would suggest you download this FP8 scaled version. So I'm going to click on this, and note that this is under 12 gigabytes. So in theory, it should work with 12 gigabytes of VRAM or less. Now, if you have even lower than 12 gigabytes of VRAM, the good news is you can also try these GGUF models by Quantstack. So here are different compressed versions of FLUX Krea Dev, ranging from 12 gigabytes all the way down to 4 gigabytes. So these ones in particular should be able to run on just 6 gigabytes of VRAM. But of course, with that much compression, you are going to get some sacrifice in quality. Anyways, I'll also link to this page in the description below in case you need to download one of these GGUFs. Anyways, let's click download, and this goes in ComfyUI, and then in models, and then in diffusion models. You can see I already have this over here, and this is 11 gigabytes in size. Alright, next going back to here, we also need to download this clipl file. So let's click on this, and this goes in ComfyUI, in models, and then text encoders. As you can see, I already have this here, and this one is way smaller. It's only like 234 megabytes. And then next, you can choose to download from one of these T5XXL files. You can use this one only if your VRAM is greater than 32 gigabytes. But since my GPU is less than that, I'm going to download this FP8 version. So let's click on this. And again, this goes in ComfyUI, and then Models, and then Text Encoders. Let's click Save. Notice that this file is 4.6 gigabytes in size, so it's also going to take a while to download. And then finally, we also need to download this ae.safetensors file. So let's click on this, and this goes in ComfyUI, and then in Models, and then VAE. You can see I already have this over here. Alright, after you've downloaded all these files, let's go ahead and open up ComfyUI. Now, the first thing we should do is actually click on Manager and then click on Update ComfyUI, because you might need some components from the latest version. Now, if you don't see this Manager button up here, again, refer back to this tutorial where I go over how to add that to your interface. Anyways, let's click on Update ComfyUI. Afterwards, we should see this message. So let's click Close, and then to be safe, let's click Restart. Alright, now the next step is we need to use the FLUX Krea dev workflow. Now the nice thing about ComfyUI is you don't need to create all these nodes and noodles from scratch, so you can just drag an existing workflow onto here. So we just need to download this workflow. Let me right click and then click Save Link As. And then you can save this workflow wherever you want. I'm just going to save it in my ComfyUI folder. So going back over here, the nice thing is we can just drag and drop this workflow, which we just downloaded, onto our ComfyUI interface. And then you might see this message. We can ignore this because we downloaded the FP8 version already. So let's click X, and here we go. Here is the workflow pre-built for you, so you don't need to build out any of this. Next, for this first component, make sure you click on the drop-down for each model and actually select the one you downloaded. So over here, let's click on FLUX Krea Dev FP8. And then over here, let's click on Clip L. And then over here, let's click on this T5XXL FP8. And then finally, let's also select ae.safetensors over here. And that's pretty much it. Here is where you would set the width and height of your image. And then batch size is how many images you want it to generate at once. So if you set this to like 2, then it's going to generate 2 images at once. For now, I'm just going to set it to 1. And then really quickly, here's the case sampler. You should be already familiar with this if you've been watching my previous ComfyUI tutorials. But anyways, really quickly, the seed is basically the starting point of your image, because in theory there could be almost an infinite number of different images it could generate with this prompt. And then this seed number is just one of the many images. Now usually you just set the seed to random and it doesn't matter, but if you set the seed to the same value as before and you keep all the same settings, then it's going to generate the exact same image as before. And then the number of steps is basically how many iterations of denoising you want it to go through before outputting your final image. So in general, the more steps you have, it's going to take longer to run, but you're going to get slightly better quality. But at a certain point, if you set it to too many steps, you are going to get diminishing returns. So at that point, you're just wasting compute. Conversely, if you set the step count to too low, like only 10 steps, then it's going to run way faster, but at the sacrifice of some quality. And then CFG is like how literally you want the AI to follow your prompt up here. So a high CFG value would really get it to generate everything you specified very literally, whereas a low CFG value would give it more creativity and it might add some variance to the output. And then the sampler name and scheduler, these are basically different algorithms you can use to generate your image. Feel free to play around with these. Each one has a slightly different and subtle effect. And that's pretty much it. Here is where you would enter the prompt to generate your image. Note that there's only a positive prompt and no negative prompt for Flux. So let's do a quick example. For the width, I'm going to set this to 768. And then for height, let's do 1280. And then for the prompt, I'm just going to write an amateur photo of a woman in a cafe, mid-shot portrait. And that's pretty much it. Let's click run. And here is what we get. Again, you can see the colors are a lot less saturated and this photo looks a lot less polished and plasticky than the regular Flux model. Note that your outputs are already saved in this folder called FLUX Krea, which is in ComfyUI and then in Output. And that's basically how you can install FLUX Krea Dev in ComfyUI. And this is super fast for me, like I generated this in under a minute. so this should be manageable on most consumer-grade GPUs. Finally, you might be wondering, is this indeed the best open source image model you can use right now? Well, around the same time that this was released, there have also been posts about WAN 2.2 being an insanely good image model. And by the way, WAN 2.2 is by far the best open source video model out there right now. I already did a full tutorial on this, so see this video if you haven't already. You definitely don't want to miss out on this video generator. Now, interestingly, even though this is a video model, some people claim that it's also hella good at generating just images. In other words, you can set the number of frames to 1, and in most cases, the generations from WAN 2.2 seem to be even better than FLUX Krea Dev. However, at least at the time of this recording, there's no standard on what are the best settings to use to generate images using WAN 2.2. Some people claim that you should only use the low noise model. Some people claim you should use both the high noise and the low noise. Others claim that different algorithms work better. Anyways, because it's still a lot of experimentation right now, I'm gonna wait a bit until we've arrived on some sort of consensus on what's the optimal settings to use before I make a video reviewing the image generation capabilities of WAN 2.2. Stay tuned for that, it's actually pretty damn good. Anyways, back to FLUX Krea Dev, that sums up my review and tutorial on this model. This can definitely generate some insanely realistic images that are really hard to tell apart from actual real photos. Let me know in the comments what you think of this, and if you run into any errors during the installation, welcome to paste the error message in the comments below and I'll try to help you troubleshoot as much as possible. As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you, so if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week, I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel, so to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.